So just to give you a brief rundown of the day's play, England won the toss, batted. There's been a lot of talk about this pitch, hasn't there? Well, actually, the openers did pretty well, put 47 on the board. Then Duckett was caught behind off deep on his debut. Pope 2 balls later, LBW to deep. Crawley bowled by deep, so suddenly England lost those 3 wickets for virtually nothing, and they were 57 for 3. Then a stand of 52 between Root and Bairstow, who played very well until he tried a sweep shot and was LBW for 38, 109 for 4. In comes Ben Stokes just before lunch. He gets a ball that literally went like a marble. It reminded me of dear old Nasser Hussain and Carl Hooper all those years ago back in Trinidad. Shuttle on the ground, Stokes out to LBW, didn't even wait for the umpire's decision, he walked off laughing. That was 112 for 5. Now, after that, England added 190 runs for 2 wickets. It was quite remarkable, really. First, a stand of 113 with Root and Folkes, who made 47, played very nicely. He was bowled by Siraj. And then Hartley was bowled by Siraj, a beautiful ball for 13. And throughout all of that, Joe Root just played immaculately. 160 finish from 226 balls. I didn't see a single sweep. I certainly didn't see a single reverse scoop. It was just Joe Root playing as Joe Root does. He was calm, he was unflustered, and he played absolutely brilliantly to score his 31st Test century. So England closed on 302 for 7. Tuffers and Michael, and from 112 for 5. That's quite a transformation. Let's start with you, Michael. What do you make of that?
Yeah, afternoon, everyone. Today, Aggers, was the day where Common Sense Ball introduced itself to Bazball, and they don't necessarily get on. They've been arguing quite a lot of late. It was wonderful to see. I mean, I don't know what happened at lunch, because when England were 5 down at lunch, I'm watching them thinking, they're going to come out and play all the shots in the afternoon. They'll get bowled out for 180, probably inside 40 overs. That means India will bat the rest of the day when the pitch is probably at its finest. But can England just change their method? I don't know whether it was a conversation between Folkes and Root, whether something happened in the dressing room at lunch, but that afternoon session, they scored 86 in 36.5 overs. Scored at 2.26, which is not the Bazball era. It's not something that we've seen for a couple of years. And it was exactly what was required for that situation at that moment. England had to dig in deep. They had to play with a doggedness that, again, we don't necessarily see from this England side. They do like to be expansive and exciting, but it was exactly the right style to try and get England back into the Test match. And it's exactly what the doctor ordered. And Joe Root, and also Ben Folkes, he deserves a lot of credit, but Joe Root played, you can't really play better than that on day one in a Test match in India.
Tuffers, how do you rank that amongst all the cricket you've seen? It was a rather remarkable day, wasn't it?
Absolute remarkable day. Yeah. One of the best Test match days I think I've seen in a long, long time. I mean, started off with the ball thumping into Crawley and it was cutting them in half, got his off pole ripped out of the ground, and then it was off a no ball, and the seamers were on top, and I was thinking, oh, crikey, here we go. England are going to be in trouble here. And then the spinners came on and they started to weave a web, and then, it was just a beautiful, as you say, playing the situation from Joe Root and Ben Folkes. I think Ben Folkes helped Joe Root a little bit there as well. It was just, right, come on, we're going to get stuck in here and we're going to get ourselves back in the game. And I think it confused India a little bit, because they were thinking to themselves, oh, here we go again, 110 for 5. They're just going to slog one up in the air, or they're going to come running down the pitch and get a wicket, and that, and that's what they do. But they changed tack. And for some reason, I think it foxed India a little bit. They didn't quite know, hold on a minute, when's this rash shot going to come? When are we going to get gifted this wicket? And they ground them down. They put together some partnerships. And it's funny, isn't it? You just put some partnerships together. Men go out. There's not too many men round the bat, which I thought was a strange tactic by Roeck, especially when Ben Folkes came in. And then you pick up the singles. Then you start to rotate the strike and you start getting yourself back into the game. So it was a beautiful day of Test match cricket, ebbs and flows, highs and lows, but I mean, a fantastic knock by Joe Root. Great to see him back playing how Joe Root plays. And what a lovely way to get to his century. A classic off drive. Yes. Wonderful to see.
I see A.B. de Villiers has come on. This is the Joe Root mode that wins you Test matches. He's put out glue mode. Let the rest play Bazball, he says. But actually, Michael, you make the point there. When they resumed after lunch, and Stokes having got out like that, and there were some pretty brutal balls in that first session as well. Cool. In a way, that you could have understood it if they came out and had a bit of a dart, because it seemed that every ball had their name on it.
Yeah, and I always talk about, mental toughness is always going against the grain and doing things that necessarily you find difficult to do. And I think the easy option for England And if you like, the mentally weak option would have been for them to come out swinging and try and get another 150 quickly. Well, what they chose is the hard option, which was to dig in, because there is a ball out there. I think this is a pitch that England have got a really competitive first innings total. It's clearly a new ball wicket. It's clearly a morning wicket as well, because it did plenty in the morning session. So that new ball is going to be crucial, Anderson and Robinson, when they get that in hand. But England chose the option of toughness, which was just to try and bat, because if you get bowled out inside 45 overs on day one, I don't care who you're playing, you don't win many test matches from that position, because you allow the opposition to bat on the first day, and then by the time you get that moisture on the second morning, the ball's not new enough for it to do too much damage. What England now have is a great opportunity to get 50, 60 more runs, and I really believe that that's probably beyond par in what we've seen today. The then question is, if India survive that new ball, are the spinners in the first innings going to have enough to force India into a lowish total? Probably not. But what that day has done is given England that little bit of breathing space that India are going to know that they're going to have to bat very, very well in the first innings, because they're going to have to get up to close to England, if not a lead. And then England have got that third innings of the match. And you can't tell me that this pitch, if it gets to days 4 and 5, it's going to get any better. It's going to be an absolute minefield, you think. So what they've said to India is, we're getting a decent score, and I think it is going to be just beyond par, and you're going to have to bat so well in that first innings, which is a huge amount of pressure on a team. And also, Agaz, I will say this, no Jasprit Bumrah, and we mentioned it last week. I thought Bumrah would play here. They've rested him. And how much did that help Joe Root? Because we know that Joe Root's been suffering against Jasprit Bumrah. He goes out there today, and he knows there's no Jasprit Bumrah, so he probably looked at their attack and went, you know what, I can just play it, just sit in here. I'll just sit in here all day, just knock it around. I'm not really threatened by Jasprit coming with that old ball, the reverse swinging ball. And I wonder whether over the course of the next few days, we might look at that decision from the Indian management to rest Bumrah when the team are 2-1 up in the series. Would it have been worth them saying to Bumrah, play here, try and win this series 3-1, then have a break? I thought it was a strange time to call a rest on Jasprit Bumrah.
And also, what about the management or administrator or whoever has made the decision on the Indian side to produce a pitch like this? Because the last two pitches it did a bit, but it didn't do enough to bring England spinners into the game, whereas you feel this one probably has toughers.
Well, yes, I think it will turn, but let's just see, let's see what the pitch is like when both sides have had a bat on it. I don't think it's going to be quite as bad as everyone makes out it's going to be. That it was doing a bit for the seamers early on. Well, okay, fair enough. And the odd one, when that one hit Zach Crawley with the gloves in front of his face, I thought, crikey, O'Reilly, it was shades of Sabina Park. But they got themselves through it instead of then just, as you say, playing shots and gifting wickets to India. They made them work for it. And I think it shocked India. I think they sort of were going, well, hold on a minute, when's the next one just coming along? That's what usually happens on these kind of pitches. They really made India work for their wickets. And I think it shocked Rohit, and I think it shocked that Indian bowling unit a little bit as well. And as Michael was saying, that now puts it back onto India. The pressure is on you now. You're going to be batting last on it. We've done our bit a little bit, if you know what I mean. And now you've got to go out there and show what you're made of, because you just can't go out there and play shots on it, but you've got to grind your way to a decent total on it.
Yeah. Are you surprised that they've rolled this one out, Michael, for this game?
Yeah, well, I think it gives England a chance. You go back to that first week in Hyderabad. That's the reason why England won that game, because it allowed England spinners plenty of action in that second innings. Tom Hartley getting 7 fantastic wickets, but a lot of it was down to the pitch just ragging square. The next 2 pitches were a little bit flatter. India won those games quite convincingly by over 100 and then by 434. And then you get to the fourth when you're 2-1 up in a series and you allow England not only into the game with the spinners, but with the seamers. You look at Anderson and Robinson. And by the way, Ben Stokes will bowl, I'm pretty sure, this week, because if they need an extra seamer, which they might, someone to hit the cracks, Ben Stokes will probably have a role as well. So England might have 3 seamers to go and hit those cracks, particularly tomorrow, and then obviously in the second innings. So, I think you're absolutely right, Agaz, that this Indian management, they do some strange things, and they do things that are a little bit out of the box. But resting Jasprit Bumrah was a huge shock to me. and then seeing the pitch. You imagine Bumrah on that wicket this morning. I mean, Akashdeep looks a good ball. He looks a really good find for India, but he's not Jasprit Bumrah.
No,
it really isn't.
Really
and Bumrah
nasty.
on there today would have had a field day. So I just think it's given England a little bit of a boost. They've won the toss, batted first. And I can guarantee, I used to think the same. I'll go back to 2005 when McGrath wasn't playing at Edgbaston in the second test. We all felt a little bit taller walking out to bat. And I reckon you walk out to bat and there's no Jasprit Bumrah, I reckon it gives certain players in the England side that little bit of a boost.
Yeah. Aggers, one other thing, John, as well. As you said, you were talking about the one that hit Ben Stokes on the toe. Yeah. That was sort of like half an hour before lunch on the first day. So the Indian batsmen will be looking at that and thinking to themselves, well, listen, it's not going to get any better. And so there's going to be more and more of those coming along.
And there will be a ball or two from seamers that roll along the deck as well.
Yeah. Absolutely.
There has to be over the course of the next few days. There has to be and once it starts to happen for the seamers, and particularly when it starts to go low, you've got no chance as a batter.
It's worth mentioning that India do have a new ball ready to go first thing of the second day. Well, what was it like batting out there? Let's find out from Zach Crawley. He got a few bruises. He made 42, and he's been speaking to Stefan Schemmelt.
Zach Crawley, thanks for talking to Test Match Special Podcast. Just sum that first day up for us.
Really good day for us. Obviously, Joe stole the show there, unbelievable knock. Just showed his class yet again. But some other really good cameos. Folksy played really well, and Johnny took the initiative as well. So a really good day for us.
You said Joe's knock was unbelievable because he's been under the microscope, hasn't he? Not for just the amount of runs he hasn't got, but for the way he's been playing.
Yeah, I mean, not from us he hasn't. We never question Joe, we never question anything he does. He's a phenomenal player, he's our best player, and exactly how he wants to go about it, we know he's going to come good at some point, and he came good today. It was phenomenal.
There was quite a difference in the way the day panned out from the first session to the second session in particular. You guys always talk about knowing when to soak pressure up and put it back on. Has there been times in this series when you haven't quite got it right, and today being an example of when you have got it right?
I don't know when we haven't got it right, to be honest, but we certainly got it right today. We did it perfectly today. Ben just spoke about that before I came down here, actually, how well the boys read the situation out there, played their way, and like you say, soak it up when you need to and put it back, and I can't think of anyone who got that wrong today.
Talk us through that first session, because it was lively out there.
Yeah, it was doing a bit for sure. It was the most it's done this series with versus seam, and off the pitch that is obviously a bit reverse, but yeah, it was nipping quickly, and there was a couple jumping up and keeping low, and it was tough, but you had to throw a couple of punches back, and thankfully we got a few away.
How's your inside thigh? Because you were taking a few blows out there.
Yeah, it was a few I copped on the thing, but yeah, it's all right. I got good 5 pads.
You obviously had that little bit of fortune when you were bowled off the no ball, and then you seemed to kick on after that. Is that you, like you say, trying to throw some punches back? Yeah,
I just felt like, I was trying to bat normally, and then there was that ball in there which I thought that could easily come again, and it did. It got me out again later on, but so I thought I had to throw some punches, try and get him off his length before that happened, and I got a few away, and I was pleased with how I played. It was a shame to get out when I did, but yeah.
What was the reaction in the dressing room to the delivery the captain got?
Well, Stokesy came in when he got out and he said good signs for us because we're bowling last, and the pitches over here, they tend to get worse. So obviously you don't want that to happen too much when we're batting, but that should happen a lot more as the game goes on, and hopefully when we're bowling last, like I say, that's actually, we don't want to see one of our best players get out like that, but if it happens more and more, it's good for us. Did batting get easier as the day went on? Did a bit of moisture go out of the pitch, or when the ball got a little bit softer? I think the ball got softer against seam, and that maybe the seam got a little bit easier, but I think the spin probably got harder throughout the day. So it's, like you say, it's about reading those situations. I think if the spinner had come on early against us, we'd have probably tried to play a few more shots, but the seam stayed on, and for these guys, the guys attacked the seam at the end, and the spin was a little bit more difficult. So I don't think it got any easier in general, because I think the spin always stayed hard. What might that pitch do as the game goes on? I think it's only going to get worse. I think it's going to break up a little bit more, spin a bit more, and get a bit more variable bounce. So yeah. Word for Rayan Ahmed, who's left the tour because of an urgent family matter? Yeah, it's a shame to see him go. He's such a great lad and brings a great energy to our group. Sorry to hear that something's gone on with the family. I wish them all well, and so does everyone in the camp. So yeah, we wish all of them well. Away from the cricket, I always see you guys with a pack of cards in your hand, and I've been told you're the best player, aren't you? No, I don't know about that. I love my cards. I've always played with my old man, and my family was growing up, but we love our cards here at the moment. We've played hours of cards in this tour, so it's been good.
And look ahead for us. You guys have reached 302 for 7 on the first day. How strong a position is that when you're looking to level the series?
Yeah, I think we're in a really good position. I'd say we've just won the day. You know, they bowl well at times, but I feel like we're slightly ahead of it at the moment, and hopefully the pitch continues to get worse.
No messing there from Zach Crawley, Michael, and tough as is there. I mean, he's pretty sure what's going to happen to this pitch.
Yeah, I mean, we've just got to be careful. We've watched enough cricket where we've seen uneven bounce on days one. We've obviously seen games where it's got worse and worse and worse, but I've actually seen games where the pitch dies down a little bit, so you've got to be a little bit careful. But I think England are in the box seat. I don't think they've had a day where you think they've completely blown India away, but they've had a terrific first day. To have 300 runs on the board when you've seen one or two keep low, you've seen a bit of spin, you've seen a bit of reverse swing. They've got 2 seamers in the tap with an addition maybe of Ben Stokes. I think England are under a really good position. I mean, again, Rohit Sharma's come under a little bit of scrutiny for his captaincy. At times he's been brilliant. But I looked at when Ollie Robinson was back, and it took forever to get Ashwin into the attack. I'm thinking, well, surely tail enders just put a bit of mystery spin on. That's what tail enders don't like. They either don't like the pace, the express pace, or mystery spin. So even Ben Folkes, when he batted without a short leg for such a long period of time. And that probably just allowed Ben Folkes just to knock it around without any pressure around that. Maybe, tough as you mentioned, maybe they were just expecting England to play bad shots and just chip it in the air. Well, they didn't. They bluffed them. I think I used the analogy last week about them playing poker, and they put all their, they go all in, don't they? Well, in the middle session, they played their cards wisely. They weren't quite putting all the chips in, which if they want to become a really, really good test match side and they want to win big series, and I think they've got enough in their tank to be able to do so, particularly this series against India with how many players India have missing. And then you go to Australia in a year and a half's time. Again, I think this set of players and management have got it in them to win big series, but they have to go up and down in the gears. And today I'm actually going to crack open a bottle of red wine later to celebrate the common sense arrived to the Bazball. It's been a marvellous day.
I think it is true. I mean, we must give credit, because we've been pretty savage, especially at the end of that last test match, because of the way that they played, and they didn't seem capable of changing gears and playing a bit of common sense. But actually, tough as today, they've absolutely done it, haven't they?
No, well, absolutely. So I'm, as like Michael, absolutely delighted to see it as well, because it means that they've learned from it and they can see that wasn't the way to do it. I mean, I don't think it was savage. I mean, we all know Joe Root's one of the best players we've ever had. Do you know what I mean? And I think it was just through the frustration of not quite reading the game situation. Today, they read the game situation. They wore India down. Didn't lose a wicket in that session, did they? I don't think. For the first time in the series. And it got India scratching their heads. I think, it's not that, we're telling Joe Root how to play or England how to play. I think it's just, in India, you have to wear the opposition down. And sometimes that's not about going at 5 and 6 and over. It's about dropping anchor a little bit and then earning the right to score. And that's how you wear them down. So absolutely delighted for England today. They recognise the situation. And a pat on the back for Ollie Robinson with the bat as well. Yeah. Those little partnerships down the order wear the bowlers down. They wear the captain down. You get to totals which you then put pressure on the other side, and that's what England have done today. And I think that Joe Root 100 could be a match winner for England.
What about Johnny Bairstow, Michael? 35 balls. I mean, he's obviously had the spotlight on him as well. He won't be thrilled with that shot that he played, I don't suppose. It's one of the very, very few sweep shots that we saw all day, actually.
Yeah, I mean, I saw Johnny's eyes when he walked out. He was pumping. Yes. He was ready. And I'm always looking at Johnny when he's like that and think, well, we'll get ready, Indy, because he's on a mission. And I actually thought he played nicely. I mean, the shot will get criticised, but if there was ever a time where I would give a player a licence to go out and try and cause a bit of damage, it's Johnny in the position that he is in now without a huge amount of runs behind. I think Johnny's best method of getting back into the big runs is by being like that. I just think his manner, his mechanism of thought is better. And I'm sure the England management would have said, go out there, Johnny, go and cause a bit of chaos. And he just grabbed a bit of momentum. But, playing that shot as soon as Ashwin went around the wicket, it's a massive risk. But in this case, and I know we criticised Joe's shot last week, but because of the position that Johnny's in, and when Johnny's playing at his best, I think he gets himself going by playing in that kind of fashion. So even though he only got 38, I think it might help him in the next innings because at least he's had a little bit of a contribution and it might help him going into that last Test match. So I'm not going to be too critical of the way that Johnny plays. I just think it's probably his best method at the minute with the way that he's been playing.
I think that England read about the sweep shot very early as well. It's a difficult pitch to sweep because it is sort of like it's a bit of low bounce and the odd one is sort of like then taking off a little bit for the spin bowlers. A lot of the ones are going under the bat when they're sweeping. I think Joe Root, who's a fabulous sweeper, I don't think I saw him play a sweep shot, did we? No. I think he just played with a straight bat and looked to knock it about. I didn't see Folkes play with the sweeps and everything. You know, Ben Duckett tried one early on and just got away with the review as well. So I think England, during that innings, just started to read situations a little bit better than they have been.
Well, we've talked about the pitch from an English perspective. Let's catch up with an Indian perspective then from the former India wicketkeeper Dinesh Karthik. He's been talking to our reporter out at India, Stefan Shemilt, about precisely that, and they caught up before the end of play in Ranchi.
Dinesh, it's been a remarkable first day of this fourth Test. Mm-hmm. So much chat beforehand was dominated by the pitch. What have you made of it?
Extremely interesting pitch. The first session was frenetic, so many things happening. You know, the ball doing the talking most of the time, and the second session was absolutely docile. It was like two sides of a coin. It was very different to each other, and it was interesting to note that the bowlers didn't have anything to do in the second session. They batted beautifully, Root and Folkes, and then again third session there's been things happening. So it's been a very interesting day, one that is very much like the pitch, which basically means nobody knew what was going to happen.
Tell me why the ball behaved like it did in the first session and then it quietened down after lunch. Was there moisture? Was it the hardness of the ball?
Interesting, Stefan. You have become a cricket pundit galore. Yes, I think both of them. I think there was moisture in the pitch when I saw it, number one. Number two, obviously the hard new ball on a pitch which is slightly damp makes things really hard for the batter. Both those things put together made things really exciting for the viewers to watch. I thought there was plenty happening, and you get a ball like what Stokes got. You're just going to turn around, smile like he did and walk away. There's no one in this world who could play that. So that's that for the day. But overall, it's been a very engaging and thrilling day, if I might say that. It is an interesting pitch from an English point of view, I feel, because there is so much happening with the new ball when it's slightly hard that I think the Indians won't have it easy this Test.
Before the game, when we talked in our preview chat, you said you wanted Akashdeep to play, and he took the new ball and he bowled beautifully this morning. It was his control of length that impressed me a lot. He was nipping the ball into the right-hander, away from the left-hander. He looked right at home in Test match cricket.
Very true. I think I've been watching him for some time now, and his strength is his length. He's someone who's grown up on playing a lot of domestic four-day cricket, and it shows in his bowling. He's got a very, very consistent length, which sometimes hampers him in white ball cricket, but that's the beauty. One man's poison is another man's thing. So, it was great to see him come out there and show the skill sets that he had. When India A played England Lions recently in India, he was India's best bowler by a distance. And if I might say that, along with Matthew Potts, he was probably the best bowler amongst both teams put together. So he is a very good talent. He's played for Bengal, comes from a small state, from a small town, very close to where we are in Ranchi. So his parents had come for the game, and he's a great success story.
Tell me about him as a person, because you know him well.
Yeah, I know him pretty well. He plays with me in RCB. Very soft-spoken guy. Had a very turbulent last 3 years. His parents actually didn't want him to play the sport. He lied to them and said he's going to find a job, and he went to Delhi, and that's where he started his cricketing journey. And from there, he didn't get an opportunity in Delhi, so he moved to Bengal. And then he found the chance playing for West Bengal, and he's done really well for them in the last 5 years of domestic cricket, and has earned his stripes here. In RCB, he is one of those who comes along at the start of the season, always produces a good performance, but somewhere down the line, in a couple of games, he gets hit and they gets replaced. And because there are so many bowlers in a roster, you tend to keep going through a few. And I'm sure he's going to turn out to be a very, very good test bowler. And you can just see he's got the skill sets and he's got the speed, he's got a natural length, and he's a hit the deck kind of bowler. Pretty rare from India to get that kind of bowler. Generally, you'll get more people who just release the ball and hope for the swing, but he seems to get the ball into the pitch a lot, and he's a very, very good talent that India will be seeing him a lot in action in the near future.
Another one of those stories that you hear so often in Indian cricket. Spotted in club cricket, is that right? Then got his chance in the professional game.
Yes, he got spotted in club cricket. Ex-Bengal cricketer Manoj Tiwari, I think, played along there and saw him there and thought he was a very good talent. Fast-tracked him to Bengal team. He's also picked up by Bengal have this system where they had this Vision 2020 many years ago, where they were looking for fast bowlers, spinners all around the state, and VVS Lakshman, Muralidharan, Waqar Younis, Deep Dasgupta, all of them are part of that, and he was one of the players that they spotted, and it's good to see him so well. And in the last 3 years, he's had it really tough. 3 years ago, during COVID, his dad passed away, and a few months later, his elder brother, who just developed a normal cough and was on his way to the hospital, and he passed away as well. So he's had some really turbulent times, and from there to bounce back, it's just brilliant to see him have this journey. Interestingly, he started this journey of cricket in 2007 when all of India was celebrating the T20 World Cup success. That's where his journey started.
And his mum was here earlier on. It was really emotional when he had the cap put on his head, wasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. He obviously told his parents that he's going to find a job, but also, to be fair to him, when he played the sport, one of his conditions early on in his club cricket days was he needed money. So they paid him certain amount of money, and he used to send that back to his parents. So that's where his journey started, and I'm sure his mum sitting here and watching him bowl today would be really proud of the way he's come along, and he's showing the world what he's capable of.
When I was watching him bowl, I couldn't help but wonder what Jasprit Bumrah might have done on this pitch.
Well, let's leave that to imagination for the moment, because that man is another bowling genius. So he would have had a lot to say on this pitch for sure.
So what's going to happen, Dinesh? I know that's a difficult question, but seeing what you've seen from this pitch today, how would you expect it to progress as the game goes on?
It's going to get tougher and tougher to bat, Stefan. There's no doubt about it. What's going to be interesting is how India deal with the first 30-35 overs of their batting, because if they lose a few wickets, then they're going to be under tremendous pressure. Unlike England got runs in a hurry at the start and then kind of tapered down. India bat at a very different tempo to England. They just take things as they come. They don't try to force the issue. So the first 20 or 30-35 overs is going to be very key how they bat.
And what about batting last on this pitch? How big an advantage is it that England have won the toss and had the opportunity to bat first?
I think it'll be a fair question to answer tomorrow, but for the moment, if you do look at how this pitch has behaved, there's not too much that's changed, from lunch to tea. So I would think it's not that hard, but you can definitely say that with the way the domestic games have progressed, it can get much harder to bat on.
And just looking ahead as well, Dinesh, can you imagine that totals are going to get lower as the game gets on, or is it a big thing for India to try and get up to England's total when they get their chance to bat?
When you're asking me the question, I feel like you want me to say England will win this test.
I do. That's what I want you to say.
Ideally, I would love to just say that, but the point is they've gotten a really good score from where they were. That's number one. When India come out to bat, I would like to see how they go about things, and that's when I'd be able to say what the situation will be for India. But as we speak, I can tell you, England have the upper hand going into day 2.
Thanks, Dinesh.
Thank you, Stefan.
So that's Dinesh Karthik, and we'll hear from him regularly on his TMS podcast. Now, before we go, as I mentioned, Rehan Ahmed has left India. He's dealing with an urgent family matter. He's not going to rejoin the team, so we obviously wish him all the very best. It's been a very odd series for that, hasn't it? But anyway, let's hope that everything is well with that. I don't think he'll be reflecting on his first taste of Test cricket in India. He's a character, isn't he? I mean, he's only 19, but he's certainly got some confidence, Michael.
Yeah, it has. He's going to be around the England team in all formats for a long, long time. I think he's probably going to end up being a batter that bowls a bit. His bowling's going to be very, very dangerous. He's got plenty of tricks. I think he's going to be highly successful bowling to tail-enders. I think the tail enders bowling, facing a little bit of leg spin is never easy. So I think that's an area that England will really work on. And obviously, the more he bowls, the more he plays, he's going to get better at bowling to the quality players at the top of the order. But, you forget how young he is. He's full of confidence. Great that he's been around a team. Great that he was involved in that first Test match success in terms of the victory. And England will manage him. Whether he plays a huge amount of cricket in the UK in the next 2 or 3 years, we'll have to wait and see. I think for him to play in the UK, he's probably going to have to become a top 6 player in terms of batting. And then he'd be like that second spin option, which could be a massive plus for England, even in English conditions. But no, he's a great character and great bundle of energy. You just heard Zach Crawley talk about his character and his energy that he brings to the group. I hope whatever's happened with his family, that can be put right, and we wish them well. But I like his energy, I like his character, and we're going to see a great deal more of him over the next few years.
And what an experience! What an experience for a 19-year-old to tour India. I mean, it not only the cricket and the sort of superstars you're playing against, but the pitches, the atmosphere, the culture, the everything. You come back having toured India 2 or 3 foot taller, if you know what I mean. You sort of feel that you've been at the cold face, you know what I mean, and you've had to stand up. And I think he's bowled well. I think he's come in there. He's stuck to his task. I've been impressed with his accuracy. He hasn't been sort of carted with long hops and full tosses. I think he's been working on his accuracy. I think also, as you say, he contributes with the bat in the field. I think he's going to be a great talent for England in the very near future, and he's at the moment. Actually, he's one of those guys.
I'd like to see him, Phil. I'd like to see him bat in the top 4 for his county.
Yes,
I think if he can bat number 4 for his county, I think that's going to give him a greater chance of pushing up the order or putting his hand up to bat in the top 6 for England in Test match cricket. I think he's good enough to bat 4 in county cricket. So I think that would be a real kind of an element where he can really progress as a player by going higher up the order in county cricket.